The Hockenheimring, July 31st, 1977, the German Grand Prix. The atmosphere is electric, heavy with the scent of bratwurst, beer, and unburnt hydrocarbons. The grid is a chaotic hive of activity. Mechanics are scrambling over the rear wings of cars, making last-minute adjustments to the fragile Cosworth engines. The air is filled with the deafening cacophony of engines firing up, a symphony of mechanical violence that shakes the very ground. Officials in white overalls march up and down the tarmac with clipboards, checking names, checking numbers, ensuring the sanctity of the World Championship. They are the gatekeepers. They decide who belongs in this elite circle and who does not. But amidst this frantic energy, sitting in a yellow ATS Penske PC4 is a man who is calm. Too calm. His name is Hans Heyer. He is wearing his helmet, his gloves are tight, and his eyes are fixed on the first corner. There is just one massive, glaring problem.
A problem that would stop 99.9% of human beings dead in their tracks. Hans Heyer is not supposed to be there. He isn't on the grid sheet. He hasn't qualified. According to every rule in the FIA rulebook, according to the laws of sport, and according to basic logic, he should be sitting in the grandstands with a ticket or packing his bags in the motorhome. He has been told explicitly, "You are too slow. You cannot race." But Hans Heyer doesn't care about the rulebook. He doesn't care about the officials. As the 5-minute board goes up and the grid clears, he doesn't leave. He lowers his visor. He revs his engine. He blends in with the pack, a wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding in plain sight. He is about to commit the most audacious heist in the history of Formula One. He isn't just going to watch the German Grand Prix. He is going to invade it. If you want to know all about this and other F1 stories, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. To understand the sheer lunacy of what Hans Heyer did that summer afternoon, we have to transport ourselves back to the Formula One of the 1970s. It was a different universe. It was the Wild West. The fences were lower, the sideburns were longer, and the regulations were often treated as loose suggestions rather than iron laws. It was a time when personality mattered as much as telemetry, where the drivers were often rogues, mavericks, and chancers who lived fast and played the system. And Hans Heyer? He was the king of the rogues. Heyer wasn't some random amateur who wandered in off the street. In the world of touring cars, he was a giant. He was a legend of the German racing scene, known for his spectacular driving style, his distinctive Tyrolean hat that he wore everywhere except in the car, and a mustache that commanded respect. He was a local hero, a man who knew every inch of the tarmac in Germany, and crucially, knew almost every marshal by name.
He was a character, a showman, a man who believed that rules were for people who didn't have enough imagination to break them. But Formula One is the pinnacle. It is a cruel, exclusive club. When Heyer arrived at Hockenheim for the 1977 German Grand Prix, he had secured a seat with the ATS team. ATS was a small, scrappy German outfit run by the volatile Günther Schmid. They were the underdogs, operating on a budget that wouldn't cover the catering bill for Ferrari today. But they had a car, the Penske PC4, and they had Heyer. The dream, however, hit a wall of reality during qualifying. The Hockenheimring is a monster of a track. In 1977, it wasn't the sanitized technical circuit we know today. It was a temple of speed, blasting through deep, dark forests on endless straights before braking hard for tight chicanes. It required horsepower, bravery, and a car that didn't drag on the tarmac. Heyer struggled. When the qualifying sessions were over, the timing screens told a brutal story. Hans Heyer was the third reserve. In plain English, he was too slow. He had not made the cut. He did not qualify, DNQ. In the modern era, this is where the story ends. The team packs up the car, the driver issues a sad press release, and they watch the race on TV. The security is too tight. The electronic transponders are too sophisticated. You cannot simply sneak into a Formula One race. But this was 1977. And this was Hockenheim. And this was Hans Heyer. The morning of the race, confusion reigned. There was drama regarding the starting grid. Some drivers were unhappy with the safety conditions. There were rumors of withdrawals. Heyer, sensing an opportunity, put on his race suit.
Just in case, he probably told his mechanics, just in case a spot opens up. He sat in the pits, waiting. The first reserve got in, the second reserve got in. But the grid was full. The gate was closed. Heyer was out. He was told to stand down. But Hans Heyer didn't hear stand down. He heard improvise. As the cars left the pits to form up on the grid, Heyer made his move. He knew the marshals at the pit exit. These were his people. They had watched him wrestle touring cars around this track for years. They loved him. So when he fired up the ATS and rolled towards the exit, just as the gate was supposed to be closing, maybe they looked the other way. Maybe they pretended to be busy with a shoelace. Maybe they just gave him a wink. Whatever happened, the gate didn't close. Hans Heyer rolled out onto the track. He didn't go to the back of the grid. That would be too obvious. He didn't try to claim a pole position. He simply lingered.
He positioned his car near the back, amidst the smoke and the chaos of 24 other engines revving. He became part of the scenery. He relied on the sheer visual overload of a Formula One start to mask his presence. The officials were looking for jump starts, for oil leaks, for debris. They weren't counting heads. They assumed that if a car was on the grid, it had permission to be there. It was the clipboard effect. If you look confident enough, nobody questions you. The flag dropped. The roar was deafening. And this is where fate handed Heyer his golden ticket. At the very first corner, chaos erupted. Clay Regazzoni and Alan Jones tangled. Smoke, dust, and spinning cars filled the air. It was a classic 1970s start line pileup. The officials' eyes were instantly drawn to the crash. Flags were waving, marshals were running. In the midst of this pandemonium, nobody noticed the yellow ATS of Hans Heyer weaving through the wreckage. He was racing.
He was actually doing it. He had successfully invaded the German Grand Prix. Imagine the adrenaline surging through his veins. He wasn't just driving a Formula One car at 190 miles per hour through the forest. He was doing it as a fugitive. Every lap was a stolen treasure. Every corner was a victory against the establishment. He was the stowaway on the rocket ship. For 9 glorious laps, Hans Heyer lived the dream. He wasn't just circulating, he was pushing. He was overtaking competitors who had actually qualified. He was driving the wheels off that Penske. The crowd, those who realized what was happening, must have been losing their minds. The local boy, the one who wasn't supposed to be there, was out there fighting with the big boys. But the heist couldn't last forever. The universe has a way of balancing the scales, and mechanical sympathy was never the ATS team's strong suit. On lap 9, the gear linkage on Heyer's car began to fail.
The brutal shifts required for the Hockenheim chicanes had taken their toll. The gearbox crunched, whined, and finally gave up the ghost. Heyer coasted to a halt at the side of the track, near the Ost curve. The silence of the forest rushed back in as the engine died. He unbuckled his belts, climbed out of the car, and probably adjusted his mustache. He had done it. He had raced. It was only then, as the car sat stationary and the race continued, that the officials in the control tower began to look at their lap charts with furrowed brows. They were counting the cars. They were checking the numbers. And suddenly, a look of horrifying realization must have crossed the race director's face. Who, they must have asked, is car number 30? They scanned the entry list. Car 30, Hans Heyer. Status, did not qualify. They looked at the track. Car 30 is parked at the Ost curve. They looked at the lap chart.
Car 30 has completed 9 laps. The math didn't add up. It was impossible. And yet, there it was. The realization hit them like a cold bucket of water. They had been duped. A driver had simply joined the race without asking, driven for 20 minutes, and then retired, all under their noses. The aftermath was a mixture of fury and hilarity. The FIA was not amused. This was a breach of security, a breach of safety, and a mockery of their authority.
They immediately slapped Heyer with a ban. They scrubbed him from the records. They threw the book at him. But they couldn't scrub the memory. And they couldn't scrub the sheer statistical beauty of what he had achieved. By invading the race, Hans Heyer created a statistical anomaly that will likely never be repeated in the history of motorsport. In the official record books for the 1977 German Grand Prix, his name appears with a unique holy trinity of acronyms. First, he has a DNQ, did not qualify. He was too slow on Saturday. Second, he has a DNF, did not finish. His gearbox broke on lap 9. Third, he has a DSQ, disqualified, because obviously you can't race if you aren't in the race. DNQ, DNF, DSQ, the triple crown of failure, or depending on how you look at it, the triple crown of glory. Most drivers spend their whole lives trying to get one DNF. Heyer managed to get all 3 statuses in a single afternoon. He broke the matrix of Formula One scoring. Hans Heyer never raced in Formula One again. The doors were bolted shut after that stunt. But he didn't care. He went back to touring cars, where he continued to win, wearing his Tyrolean hat and laughing about the time he gate crashed the pinnacle of motorsport. His story is a reminder of a lost era. Today, F1 is a world of biometrics, electronic passes, and sterile precision. A driver can't even go to the bathroom without a transponder tracking their location. The idea of someone just
driving onto the grid is absurd. It is science fiction. But Hans Heyer reminds us that racing, at its core, is about a rebellious spirit. It's about the desire to drive, no matter what the piece of paper says. He saw a red light and treated it as green. He saw a closed door and treated it as open. He was the ultimate gatecrasher, the man who decided that if the party wouldn't invite him, he would bring his own beer and jump the fence. So, the next time you watch a Grand Prix and you see the drivers lining up in their perfect rows, surrounded by their armies of mechanics and officials, spare a thought for the yellow ATS of 1977. Spare a thought for the ghost car that shouldn't have been there. And remember Hans Heyer, the only man in history to start a race he wasn't in, finish a race he didn't start, and get disqualified from a race he never entered.